This is great. You guys. All right, here we go. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I'm having a moment. I practice meditation, but I'm not always calm. You might call me an excitable type. There's one of my favorite Buddhist books is called The Great Path of Awakening. And it's a set of 59 slogans that, if you can practice them, help you to have a happier, better life, right? And one of the slogans, it's not just a rough translation, is like, don't be impulsive. But the commentary that was written about it says, don't trouble the minds of your companions. Don't trouble the minds of your companions by expressing your opinions on every little matter. You know, and I'm going to be a total failure on that one. I just can't do it. In fact, I'm sorry to start with stories, but I'm having that kind of a day. When I did my job interview for my first full-time journalism job, I don't really, I mean, how many of us remember our first job interview at all? Because we were probably so nervous that we have no idea what we said. And we could have actually said anything, right? And we would, anyway. So I had my job interview for my first daily newspaper job. And then the editor who interviewed me called my editor at the weekly newspaper in Canal Winchester, which I was working for the Canal Winchester Times as a weekly correspondent covering Madison Township trustees and the Board of Education. So anyway, and he asked her, is she always like that? Is she always like that? And I said, yeah. I mean, yeah, the editor basically said, yeah, she's always like that. But her work is good, so anyway. So you have to take the whole package. I'm joking, I have no idea what else she said, but yeah, she's like, so I'm being an excitable type, this happens. But today, I have to say, I always love it when we dress the shrine up. Thank you to Olivia and to Jelaine and all the shrine team people who helped set up our twinkly lights and our special cloths, altar cloths and so forth for the Buddhist holiday. There are 4 holidays that are celebrated and observed in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. I mean, every Buddhist tradition in the world has its own Buddhist holidays, and they're celebrated on a lunar calendar at different times of the year and at different days of the year and so forth and so on. But in the Tibetan tradition, we have 4, and one of them is observed tomorrow. And it's called, in Tibetan, they call it Chukor Duchen. Chu means Dharma, and Kor means wheel. And Duchen means the great occasion. So it's the great occasion of the turning of the wheel of Dharma. So in other words, it's the day that commemorates when the historical Buddha Shakyamuni gave his first teaching. And he had attained his enlightenment. And yeah, I was going to say, you need a seat. There's one there, and there you can, there you go. Hey, thanks a lot. So he attained his Buddhahood, and he was just sitting in meditation and didn't know what he was going to do with the knowledge and wisdom that he had obtained. And then somebody came up to him and said, can you please teach us? And being asked, he couldn't say no, so he began to teach. And he gave the teaching that we now know as the Four Noble Truths, or the Four Truths known by the Noble. So it's like that. And so that's the holiday for tomorrow, is the observance of the great occasion of the Buddha's first teaching. So in that way, we dress up the shrine. I mean, it already looks pretty good, but they add extra lights and things like that to it. And as you can see, we have some flowers that if you want to offer them, you can use the QR code and make a small donation, and then we'll put them on the shrine tomorrow. So in any case, this particular event in our Sunday schedule is called the Dharma Talk, and I like to give talks about various aspects of Buddhism during this hour that we're going to spend together. So we'll start with a prayer, as we usually do. It's on this sheet, and it's a refuge prayer. You don't have to recite it, but if you're moved to, you can join us. It will be recited 2 times in English, and 1 time it'll be chanted in Tibetan. The purpose of it is to kind of set our motivation, for sharing and being together. It begins with the words in the Buddha. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. And I'll try to chant in a tone that'll work. We'll see. O Sanjay Chudan Soji Chonamla Jang Chu Pardu Dani Kyap Suchi Daji Chen Soji Be Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sanjay Druparsho. Okay, thanks very much. I'll start with a short prayer of my own, and then we'll begin. O Palden Sawe Lama Rinpoche Tagi Chiwar Pede Ten Shala Kadrin Jembo Gone Je Sunte Kusum Tugging a Drip Sal to Soul. Okay, thanks. So this being the sort of the Sunday celebration of the Buddhist holiday called Chukor Duchen, the Buddha's first teaching, it's really great to be talking about the Dharma with all of you. Today I'm going to briefly recount the teaching of the Four Noble Truths, and then after that I'm going to talk about a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart, which is miracles, little miracles. We're not going to talk about the big ones necessarily, we're just going to talk about the little ones that happen in our own lives. So, I'm having fun today. Everybody's wearing great T-shirts today. Thank you. Yeah, I saw. Where's the one that says everything will be okay? Yeah, I really like that. And the other is it say anything except just karma on your shirt? Karma. Yeah, my favorite one is the bumper sticker that says, "My karma ran over my dogma," which I think is not good. Anyway, sorry. Anyhow, so Four Noble Truths. We all know the story of the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, whose first teaching is being celebrated on our calendar tomorrow. Well, everybody knows his life story. He was born a prince in northern India, and his father kind of like owned the family business, which was a city-state in northern India. And he was hoping his son would follow in his footsteps and become king. But because of the words of advice given by a fortune teller, because they had the prince's fortune read when he was a baby, and the fortune teller said, oh, well, your son will be a great king if he is kind of like sheltered from all the sufferings of the world, because if he finds out about all the sufferings of the world, then he's going to like leave home. And not only is he going to leave home, he's going to quit the family business, and he's going to become a wandering holy man. So I don't know about your parents, but my parents would not have found that to be a viable career choice. So the Buddha's, the Prince Siddhartha, his parents, then basically kept him kind of locked up in the big palace compound for pretty much all his life. And they kept him busy. They educated him. He was a great athlete. They sponsored contests and, all that kind of stuff. And he was just a real go-getter of an individual. He married at a very young age, and I think in his teens, in his middle to late teens, he married, and he and his wife had a son. And so then, essentially, his work was done because he had learned all the princely arts and provided an heir. So now he began to get restless, and he was wondering what was outside the gates. And so he finally prevailed on his father to allow him to leave the palace compound to see the people he was going to someday rule. So his father sends him out, but he sends him with a chaperone, you know what I'm saying? Because Dad didn't want him to see too many of the bad things. Unfortunately, that's what happened. The Buddha saw everything. I mean, the Prince Siddhartha saw everything. He saw sickness, he saw aging, and he saw a corpse being carried to the cemetery. So, needless to say, this was a bit of a shock, because all of these things, sickness, aging, and death, had been hidden from him while he was growing up. And it kind of hit him like a ton of bricks. And so he was really stricken by this, by the suffering of his people. Yes, but also by suffering in general. And he decided that night he was going to leave the palace. So it happened just as the fortune teller foretold. He switched clothes with someone and escaped the palace, and then went to study with holy men. So he practiced for 6 long years the path of asceticism. I mean, like he was down to eating 1 grain of rice a day, right? And he was nearly starving himself to death. And his meditation was, needless to say, not going well, because he was sleep deprived, hungry, thirsty, miserable, and nothing was working. And so he realized in that moment that the luxury of the palace was not working for him to help him achieve the result he was seeking. He was trying to find the causes of suffering so he could fix them once and for all. That's why he went on this kind of oddball quest. That's why he left home. He had seen the suffering, but he didn't know how to relieve it. So he determined that he would go and find out from all the holy men the causes of suffering and how to solve it. So he realized in that moment of near starvation, this isn't working either. Being in luxury in the palace didn't work, and this didn't work either. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I think I need to do something different. So, this should be put in a movie sometime. He gets up from his asceticism, and he's already attracted 5 followers who think he is the best. I mean, they're like rabid fans. These 5 fanboys, they were just like surrounding him like, oh, what's he going to do? What's going to happen? He's the best of all of us. And so how would that feel, Then you see your like leader stand up, walk away, and say, I need to get something to eat. So this happened. This is how the story is told. And so he gets up, and a woman, a very kind woman, sees his condition, because he's about ready to fall over, right? And she gives him some rice mixed with milk, and he eats the entire bowl, and then he says, okay, I'm good now. So now he goes, because he was meditating in the sun on a riverbank, so he kind of figured he needed to change that up too. So he got soft grass and sat under the shade of a tree. Awesome. I've sat under the shade of a tree in India in 100-degree temperatures myself, so I can tell you that is a good choice. It's a very good choice. My tree was very small, like the ones parked out front, but his tree was ginormous, and so it gave him a lot more shade. So he determined that this middle path was how he had to apply himself. Being in luxury and being careless, that wasn't the path. Being rigid and being stuck in asceticism, that was not the path. He had to do something in the middle. And that was what brought about his Buddhahood, his awakening. He was finally able to meditate in that relaxed, comfortable state. And he was able to actually break through and find the answers to the questions. Why is there suffering? And how can it be resolved? And when in that moment, he didn't have any idea of how he was ever going to express this to anyone. How could you? It's inexpressible. It's beyond understanding. But when he was requested to teach, he began to teach. And he said that suffering was part of life. That was his first truth. Suffering was part of life. And then the second of the truths was that suffering had a cause. The third was that because suffering had a cause, it had a solution. And the fourth truth was that there was a path that led to the end of suffering. So these four truths known by the Noble were what he based all of his teachings on subsequently. He taught on those four truths and associated teachings for another 40 plus years until he died around the age of 80. And this vast corpus of teachings was handed down from generation to generation through memorization for years, and then finally the Buddhist scriptures were written down, and they became the basis for Buddhism, the Buddhism that spread all over Asia and now eventually all over the world. But what were these Four Noble Truths, and why were they called noble? In his time and place, in the Buddhist time and place, it was thought that nobility was something you were born to, that you could only be a noble being if you were born in a specific kind of family, and a specific kind of wealth, and a specific kind of specialness. So you had to have all of these special things about you, otherwise you couldn't be considered noble. If you were so-called low birth people, then you couldn't be noble. It's impossible. But the Buddha, in his teachings, said, I've seen it differently. I have seen that all of us have the potential to become noble. Everyone has within them the capacity to know their mind and know their mind completely, and thus break the chain of interdependence that keeps us in this state of suffering. And he said everybody can do it. Everyone can become noble. And for that reason, he was actually thought of as being a danger to society because he threatened the status quo, where nobles were highborn and everyone else was lowborn. But he said, no, you can become noble. Any being, any person can become noble. And so his teaching was incredibly radical, but it was powerful, and people began to follow him, not because he was the world's greatest ascetic, but because he knew something about suffering and its causes. Now, what about these four truths? He said, suffering's part of life, and you have to know this. Now, we may say, well, yeah, suffering is part of life. Doesn't everybody know that? They know it, but do they know it? Do they know it in their heart? Because the way I think most of us respond to suffering is by thinking we don't deserve it, and therefore we need to give it to somebody else. We need to pass it along to someone else or get rid of it somehow. We run away to one of the two extremes, maybe, of like stuffing down all of our feelings and pretending we don't have them, or exploding with emotion and pain and suffering, when really these two extremes are not useful and not helpful because they haven't brought us directly into contact with suffering and its causes. We've tried to run away rather than being engaged with what's going on within us. And he said that if we follow the causes of suffering down to the root, he said you'll find that it's fixation and clinging. We fixate on people, things, ideas. I mean, all you have to do is hear the talking heads, on TV. I'm not talking about the band. I love them. But we're talking about the ones on TV that argue all the time. People cling to everything. It's reflexive. We do it. But it's not necessary. And we overdo it. I mean, we're human. We tend to be all or nothing thinkers. It's either all or nothing. But we can't be in the middle. We don't know how to do middle. But he said if you can do the middle by practicing meditation and getting to know your mind, you will suffer less because you'll be able to counteract the clinging and fixation that causes your pain. Of all the things we cling to, the thing we cling to the most is our sense of me or I. We are the main character in our little drama. And everybody else is just kind of like in the background. But we're the main character, and so we need to be happy. We are not exactly sure about the other folks, but we know we need to be happy. And by taking that approach, we usually cause ourselves more suffering. And as a result, then we feel worse. So the Buddha said if you can find a way to reverse clinging and fixation, that's going to be the path that will get you out of suffering. So, first noble truth, suffering's part of life, and we have to know this. Second noble truth, the cause of suffering is clinging and fixation, and we have to recognize this. Third noble truth is because clinging and fixation is the cause. If we can learn how to let go of clinging and fixation, happiness will be the result. Fourth noble truth, there's a path that allows us to do that, which he summarized as 8 points, but the 4 points are easier for me to remember. Do no harm, practice virtue, tame your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Last one's just a summary. So do no harm, don't hurt yourself, don't hurt others. Practice virtue, take care of yourself, benefit others. Tame the mind means to meditate so that you know the difference between benefit and harm. That's it, so you know the difference. So he continued to teach all those years, and now the teachings come to us. During the Buddha's lifetime, he was considered to be a miracle worker. I don't think he did any raising of the dead, but he was able to change one substance into another. He, was able to do all kinds of amazing things. And in fact, one of the other Buddhist holidays in the calendar is called Chu Trul Duchen. Chu Kor is Chu means Dharma and Kor means wheel, turning the wheel. And then in the first part of the year, in the spring of the year, we celebrate Chu Trul, T-R-U-L, Chu Trul, Dharma activity, the special occasion of Dharma activity, which commemorates when he was challenged to a debate by non-Buddhist scholars who said, if you lose this debate, all of your students have to become our students. It was a winner-take-all kind of approach. It was, shall we say, sport. I mean, can you imagine a society where debate is a sport? I kind of think that's cool. I married a debate nerd. I'm just saying, so I think they deserve more than what they get. They should get at least letters on their jackets. Anyhow, but that's a whole nother. I was a chess team cheerleader, by the way. Block that mate, pawn to king 4. It was great. That is a complete lie. I didn't do it, but I was a cheerleader because I had a crush on the guy on the chess team. Anyway, and yes, we're still married. 52 years later, we're still married. Anyway, okay, so we have this condition that we're in, and the Buddha was trying to show us how to get out of it, the condition of grasping and clinging. And that's what we need to be able to work on. So meditation helps us to get there. By sitting in meditation, we learn what's going on in our minds. And for us, that is our first miracle. Because the Buddha won that debate, by the way, by performing a miracle every day for 15 days. It was a big deal. I'm sure it was all over the papers. But he won lots of followers because, winner take all. So the Buddha performed a lot of miracles. But for us, miracles are smaller. For us, miracles are being able to sit quietly in meditation for just 5 minutes on a regular basis. That's good. That's a miracle for some of us because, clinging and fixation, I have heard that there is this thing called the internet that allows us to amplify our clinging and fixation in ways that were unheard of in human history. I've heard about this. And okay, you can look me up on Facebook, but it's what old people do. We're on Facebook. Everybody else is on Insta, but there you go. But, so we have all of this clinging and fixation. What are we going to do with it all? What are we going to do with it? How are we going to fix this? And it starts with meditation. Even if we can meditate once a day for 5 minutes for a week, wow, that's a big deal because we're so attached to and clinging to and fixated on all of the media that surround us. How are we going to get free, A buddy of mine, unplugged, and I look at him and I go, you go, guy. I wish I could do that. But even if all we can do is recognize that it's a problem and try to give ourselves some enforced absence from our machines every day, this could be a very beneficial thing. So for us, the miracles are small. Sitting in meditation, placing our attention on the breath or whatever our chosen object, our anchor or whatever is, we place our attention on that object and bring our attention back gently over and over and over again to that object. And by doing this, we create new habits in our mind. We have new grooves that we are wearing in our consciousness. And these new grooves are healthier ones. They are the grooves of letting go. Because when you're sitting in meditation and a big, ugly, hairy thought comes up and oppresses you, and in that moment, you are able to remember the technique, label the thought thinking, and let it go, it will disappear for even just a moment. That will give you enough time to place your attention back on your object, whether it's the breath or a sound or a visual object, and there's a miracle right there. It's the best miracle. The miracle of taking charge of your own mind. Everybody pays good money for our attention on the internet. They pay good money for our eyeballs. They pay a lot of money for that. But we can take it back. We can take that attention back and put it on something that's going to actually help us. And that's the function of meditation, and that's why we teach it here for free every Sunday, 10 o'clock, down in the classroom, because we believe that this is a path that will help everybody, whether they decide to be Buddhist or not. We don't particularly mind. It's learning the skill of letting go. Because if you can let go of that one big, ugly, hairy thought in meditation, that means everything is potentially up for grabs. All of our worst habits are made of those thoughts. That blows my mind. All of our worst habits are made of those thoughts, which actually are nothing and can disappear. Because once you see it happen once, it's like a revelation. So, to me, that's the best miracle. The miracle of discovering that we can take back our attention and be the bosses of our own minds. The next is when we begin to learn how to work with our emotions and our feelings. And we learn this in our tradition of Buddhism through something called compassion meditation. When we do compassion meditation, we use our imaginations to imagine that we're extending goodness and love and goodness and love to all beings. First is ourselves. We're out there. We send love to ourselves. We send love to all those we're close to. We send love to all the beings we don't know. We send love to the entire world. And by doing this over and over and over again, we gradually lose our fixation on self. And as we lose fixation on self, we perform another miracle, which is the miracle of thinking of others. Because when we begin to think of others, we actually reduce our causes of suffering. Because it's often, for me, it's thinking about me, me, myself, and I, that cause me so much pain and difficulty. So if we can even just let go of that for a moment. I was talking to a friend of mine in Canada. You know who you are? Thanks for talking to me this week. He lives up in SK. He's a good guy. He's from Ohio, so he's part of our KTC back in the 80s. He said, I don't know how to explain this. He said, but lately, he said, I've just been happy. Well, yeah, you're in Canada. Sorry. I have this problem. Deep truth, cheap joke. Right? I just can't stop it. Dad, wherever you are, I love you. Anyhow, he taught me to be funny. So my friend, he said, I'm just happy sometimes. I don't know why. I'm just happy. And I said, don't worry, it's okay. You're okay. Everything will be okay, like the shirt says. Everything is going to be okay. It's all okay. And what it is that, here's what I think happened in his life that brought about these moments of unexplained happiness. And I think it's, even though he himself has suffered a great deal from chronic illness and pain and injury, he feels happy sometimes. And I think it's because he's learned to be with his mind comfortably. It's taken years. We've all been, a lot of us old timers, we've been practicing 15, 20 years more. And it's taken some of us this long, to really feel comfortable with ourselves and not be afraid of as many things. It takes time. It takes time. Because I'm going to make a joke and say, our youthful vitality. George Bernard Shaw says youth is wasted on the young. I can see why. But the idea is that they have a lot of youthful vitality that helps them overcome their objections to doing things. Like, oh, that thing is not safe. I'm going to do it anyway, But the idea is that from this perch, as we get older, it's easier to practice meditation. And the easier it is to practice meditation, actually, the more contentment we feel. We know that the things that used to upset us don't really upset us as much anymore. And even young folks tell me this. The things that used to bother them, that don't bother them as much. And to me, that's an indication that meditation is effective and helpful. So, those are the little miracles I wanted to mention today. But before we go, I have so this is why I want to advise all of you to try to meditate a little bit every day. Consistency is more important than a lot of meditation, once in a while. Even just 5 minutes every day will make a difference. Remember, my friend, Dr. Julie, the brain scientist, the one who speaks with me on behalf of COSI every year during Science Festival, check us out, first week of May every year. We give talks on the brain and meditation. It's amazing. Guess what? I want to talk to her about your brain on revenge. If anybody read that article recently, just Google it, your brain on revenge. It's eye-opening. It's about it because they did brain studies and found that people who were entertaining revenge had the same brain scans as people on drugs. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting. So Dr. Julie said that her studies, the studies she worked with, said even 5 minutes of meditation on a consistent daily basis can be of assistance to people and help them and actually help them. So that's kind of like my advice about how to come up with a miracle, because a miracle doesn't have to be something special. It can just be having a moment of happiness, like my guy up in Saskatchewan. It can be having something that used to bother you a lot not bother you as much. That's fantastic. We have less to get mad about. Fantastic. You know, that's a miracle, really. And that was what my teacher said, because people would talk to him about the stories of great masters like Gampopa and Milarepa who could actually perform physical miracles. Milarepa could fly. At least that's what people said. And people asked, you know, our teacher, the founder of our center, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, well, what about, you know, these stories about miracles and flying and all that kind of stuff? He said, well, he said, that was in those days. He said, now, he said, our miracle is being able to let go of our anger for just 1 second. That's a miracle for us. So he got that on his authority. But because I like to talk about this kind of stuff, I have a fun miracle, 2 fun miracles to tell you about. There is a, hang on here. I won't be able to show you the pictures today, but I have a miracle to tell you about that happened to one of our buddies. In fact, I'm just going to read it. It'll be in the newsletter tomorrow. Has to do with pictures. So you may or may not know, if you read our newsletter, that we were gifted like 24 small black granite plaques with pictures of the great Tibetan master guru. He wasn't Tibetan, he was Pakistani. Let's get that right. The great Pakistani guru, Guru Rinpoche, who helped bring Buddhism to Tibet. And these black granite plaques were prophesied to be blessings for the world and to protect the world against catastrophe. And so a wealthy person in Asia sponsored the creation of these granite plaques with Guru Rinpoche's picture on the one side and a prayer on the other side. And he asked, or she asked, that they be placed all over the world to create a grid of protection for the entire world against disaster, and which I take to mean climate disaster, you know, I take that, and also war. So that's the function of these plaques, to bless, to create a web of blessing around the world. Well, people are asked to tell the central group about where they've placed them. They are placing them in natural spaces. Frequently, they place them in natural spaces so they can't be found and stolen and taken, although they're already appearing on eBay, I'm told. So, you know, people are finding them in rivers and, you know, on mountaintops and things like that. Well, one of our friends placed one the other day on a friend's property in upstate New York on a rock cairn on the top of a hill. And then right after it was placed, a rainbow appeared in the sky behind it. Okay, that gives me a little goosebump here. Wow. Those are the kinds of things that, because the whole world knows good when goodness is happening. Even the natural world loves goodness. And so there it is. It's a little miracle for us to feel, encouragement. Okay, that's miracle number 1. Miracle number 2 has to do with something that happened to me not too long ago. I was visiting the Dallas, Texas KTC, and the director of the center said, "Hey, I've got these cassette recordings. Remember cassettes? If you don't, that's okay. We're old. We get that." And so this is a teaching of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche given only one place in his entire time in America. What? It's a topic he only addressed one time. And it's an explanation of the 21 praises of Tara, which is a tantra that we recite every single Sunday at 8 a.m. as part of our Tara puja in the morning. Buddhists have been doing this for a very, 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 very long time, reciting these 21 praises to Tara. And our teacher only explained them once, and it was in Texas, and it was put on cassette. And I said, wow, can I borrow those? And he said, not only can you borrow them, you can have them, because you've got a really good archive, and I know you'll take care of them. So we did. And so I asked my friend Angel, can I ask you to tell your story here in a minute? Yeah, okay. To do the transcription, because she's good with this, she's good with it. And she found all kinds of tools, online tools, to help transcribe these amazing teachings from the cassettes. And I can tell the story, you can tell, which, when you encountered that one thing you were listening to. Can you tell that? You want to tell that? Yes, would you mind? It's just kind of one of those things. The teachings were given 24 years ago, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they were given in May 2001. Mm-hmm. And as I'm reading the teaching, it's Rinpoche talking, and then the translator giving the translation. And, it's like 5 hours of this, and to do it by hand is a lot. So I started using some Python tools and some AI in order to be able to translate it. But it's not good at the Sanskrit terms and the Tibetan terms, so you have to go through and listen to it and correct it as you go. And as I'm doing it, I remember meeting Rinpoche back in 2007 when I first met my now wife, Kelly. And, I saw him and I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? And I've never been a good Dharma student. I've never really been serious. It's only recently I started learning how to actually read Tibetan, how to do the AI tools. And luckily, and then, Lama Kathy asked me to do it. And I just happened to fall into the place to be fortunate enough to be the one who's doing it. And I thought, when I met Rinpoche almost 20 years ago, I seemed like such an unlikely person that this would land onto. Who am I? I started having doubts about it. And the moment that I'm having doubts, the translator says, and it's my hope, this is Rinpoche being translated, and it's my hope that one day somebody, that these recordings will be transcribed so that students can learn from this teaching. And it was like he knew at the moment that I was having doubt, exactly at that moment. It's like he reached out across 24 years to tell me specifically, keep going, you're doing a good job. And I was just completely dumbstruck. If he had done it, if it had come 20 seconds or 50 seconds after, I wouldn't be in that mind stream, but it was right when I was in that mind stream and needed to hear that. So that was my miracle.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just imagine being Angel at that moment when she heard Rinpoche speaking essentially to her, essentially speaking directly to her, saying, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Because these were in the library at Dallas KTC for years and years and years. And they may have been listened to, they may not have been listened to, they weren't transcribed or any of this, but they finally found their way to me, and the person actually gave them to me. And then I knew that she was talented at this kind of thing, so she did this, and then he's saying thank you. I just love that kind of stuff. So thank you very much for sharing that. I'm sorry, I hate to put people on the spot, but I was just really touched by that story. Huh? I did give you a warning, yeah. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. We can talk about anything in 10 minutes. So if anybody has thoughts, or you have a little miracle of your own, or anything that you'd like to express, we've got 2 microphones, and you can tell us all about it. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Yeah.
Hi, Lama Kathy.
Hey, hi.
Thank you for your talk today. One of the things you mentioned was, ego is one, or I guess I'll say id, to distinguish it from pride, is one of the things that we cling most tightly to and need to let go of. That's kind of been going through a lot in my journey, and one of the things that it's allowed me to do is dive deeper into self-exploration and self-expression, and I just would like to know, what's the relationship with, Buddhism to, those concepts? Is it something that we eventually need to let go of?
Oh, I see.
Or
Yeah, that's really great, because as it happens, we've got we've got people in the audience today who are artists. Let's talk about the self-expression. Writing, painting, dance, music. All of those things are self-expression. Is that what you're thinking of when you say self-expression?
yeah, I mean, any kind of self-expression, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that right now we need all of this because we need to support each other, right? But we also need to approach our art. I'm just going to use art as the example, or our self-expression, in a way that doesn't cause harm for ourselves or for others. And that takes time because we don't really know balance. So we don't really know balance. And one of my teachers said to a group of us once, if you lose your sense of humor while you become a meditator, while becoming a meditator, if you lose your sense of humor, he said, you're doing it wrong. So what that says to me, and His Eminence Taisi Rinpoche, one of the masters of current living masters of our lineage, is an artist. And he has spoken about this extensively, and you can Google him, and his comments about art will come up. If you Google Taisi Rinpoche and art, and you'll get some of his comments on this. And the idea is that artistic expression, he said to us, is, because he visited us once in retreat, artistic expression is he says, is like the proof of our Buddha nature. He didn't put it exactly that way, but the way he put it was, he said, if you can be moved by something, art, music, theater, dance, whatever, if you can be moved by something, he said, that's proof of the existence of your noble Buddha nature, right? Your inner Buddha nature. And so I think that we have to learn to see our pride and selfishness as they arise. And as they seek our pride and arrogance as they take over while we are expressing ourselves. And we need to try to make our self-expression less about pride, our own pride in ourselves and our skill, and more about generosity toward others. Okay? There's one of our friends in this center is a current member, or was a member of a jam band that was popular and still is, but he's retired from that now. And I asked him one time, I said, well, you like to practice mantra meditation. How do you, when you're on stage, do you ever imagine that you're Chenrezi and that you're giving a blessing to everybody who's watching your show? And he said, all the time. All the time. So this was how he worked with the selfishness, was by putting himself in a place where it was his art and expression was all about generosity to others and to uplifting their spirits. I can't say it's perfect because we're human, and until the moment of Buddhahood, we're always going to have these mental afflictions that make us grasp. One of my teachers, Jamgon Khantrul III, he said, till the moment of Buddhahood, there is still the arising of mental affliction. It's just that Buddhas get better at handling it, which I thought was really a good statement. So I don't know if that helps with your...
It does, thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking about this, yeah. I know there's a famous story, and I'm going to disappoint you because I don't know the punchline. Richard Gere asked, the actor Richard Gere asked the Dalai Lama, who was his teacher, about acting, whether acting was okay or not. And essentially, he said, yeah, it's okay, but I forgot the punchline. There was supposed to be a funny part in there. So now we got to look that up. Okay, sometimes it falls flat. Yeah.
Hello, Lama Kathy.
Hey, hello. Thanks for coming today.
Miracles. Wow. You touched on quite a few of them for me. And let's go back. In 2004, I am a past member of KTC in Dallas. And in 2004, I had the pleasure of buying a Buddha and needing to have it blessed. And the woman I bought it from suggested that I have it blessed. And I said, where would one take a tarnished-faced Buddha and have it blessed? And she said, with a Tibetan Lama. And I got to meet Lama Dujum Dorje, who blessed my little Buddha. And when I went to pick it up, was talking to this woman about going to Tibet. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because years before, a woman that I had met in New York that started a meditation group let me go through her photo albums, and I got to see all her photos of when she went to Tibet trekking. And so I wanted to go, and I got to go. One of the first miracles was having a beautiful view on the bus and getting Lama Dorje to get the bus driver to stop so that we could get out. And as we did, a double rainbow appeared over us as somebody was taking a picture. I'd never seen a double rainbow. Rainbows are very special to me. I actually feel that it's something talking to me, the universe talking to me. When I see them, it's usually telling me something. Whether or not I know it, who knows? Through that, and the people that come to these rooms, we are all miracles. We all give something to somebody in some small way every time we meet, and every time we get together, and every time we come to hear our teacher teach, or other lamas come to teach. It is absolutely fabulous to have anger, to know to stop clinging, to just be able to meditate for 5 minutes on a daily basis. I am human. I do not have it perfected. I wish I could say I did. Half the stuff I learn, it's like I forget it, or all of a something drastic has to happen for me to be able to come back and start doing it over again. But I just wanted to say, the miracle has been the people that I have met, and they're all over the world. And this seems to be the one true thing that all of us can believe in. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Vicki. I appreciate this. Yeah, I think what folks tell me is that when we begin to allow ourselves to change, right, and begin to take on new ways of looking at things and new ways of thinking, that's a miracle too. So, and then it leads to us being able to be sources of strength for other people, and that's a great aspiration. And so, thank you, and thank you for sharing. Because of time, we have to stop for today. But I really appreciate you being here. And I just, like I say, I can't believe I've got some folks I got to give hugs to when I'm done here, because I haven't seen you for a while, and it's wonderful. And I hope that you will come back again and again and again to visit with us and be in this incredibly blessed space. A young person from Southern Ohio came here yesterday, and they had not been here since the shrine was installed, and they were kind of like, whoa, Because the folks who are visiting us for the first time today may not know this, but this shrine was only installed in April. So it's, we're still getting used to it, and I'm coming now, and I look at it and it's like, oh, it was always there, right? Anyway, so let's do a very Buddhist thing and dedicate the goodness. So we'll gather together all the goodness, and we don't even keep that. We give that away too. There's something called the dedication of merit on the back, and we'll just recite it in English for the, for time. We'll think that we pulled together all the goodness that we've accomplished here through being present for these discussions, and we dedicate it to all beings being free from suffering. I'll start with the words, by this merit. By this merit may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is. Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way. And all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Thanks, everyone. I want to thank you for being here today and to invite you. You can feel welcome to come tomorrow. You can dedicate flowers for tomorrow's ceremony. We're going to have a group of prayers that we're going to be reciting, a little bit in Tibetan and a little bit in English, starting at 9:30 tomorrow morning. I believe we're also on Zoom tomorrow morning at 9:30. And I just, welcome you, and I hope you can come. And if not, we'll see you next week. And be safe out there. And we'll talk again soon. Okay. Om Mani Padme Hum. Thank you to the sound department. Thank you, guys.